Standing before you is Jiren, the most senior living member from the Order of the Dragon Slayer. He is an average-sized human in his 60s. He wears fancy blue robes and carries a walking staff. He is clean-shaven and has a perfectly shaved head, as well as a very plain, unremarkable face. The only thing that does stand out about this man is his third eye, brilliant blue like the others, and raised slightly higher than his other two, and positioned exactly in the center of his forehead.
Many dragon slayers fought to save Drakkaren, even before I joined their order. Since you are unfamiliar with the land from which we come, sit a while and listen. I will tell you all there is to know. Way back in the year 5805, Salignus, an ancient red dragon, destroyed a human village in the kingdom of Tartia and killed Ebnis, a silver dragon that tried to protect it. One of the humans from the village, Darius Maledictus, stole the dragon's essence and escaped, acquiring great power from the dragon and leaving it in a weakened state. Darius sought out safety and eventually made his way to Drakkaren, where the king gave Darius and his wife leave to settle in his lands. Darius founded the town of Kristin, and in the generations that followed, the power Darius stole from Salignus was passed down through the Maledictus bloodline. In the year 5882, 77 years after Darius acquired his power, one of his descendants, Vister Maledictus, lived a normal life in Kristin. He lived there with his younger sister, Shale, and his older brother, Jobin. Salignus, the ancient red dragon Darius robbed of power, happened upon Kristin. Salignus had been traveling from village to village, searching for the spawn of the one that stole from him. Vister's father was burned alive by Salignus. Vister, enraged, attacked Salignus with magic, revealing he was the one Salignus sought after. After a brief and futile battle, Vister managed to escape out of pure luck. Salignus showed no mercy, and Kristin was turned to ash. Shale was enslaved by Salignus and forced to become his thrall. Then, in year 6005, the Battle of the Dragon's last roar. The Order of the Dragon Slayer defeated the last remaining dragons who had plagued the land of Drakkaren since the beginning of recorded history, only sparing the metallic dragons that aided dragon slayers in their victory. This ended the Great Drakkaren Dragon War. Several years later, in the year 6013, the Atama clan, a family of blue dragonmen, settled in Kasumi village, fleeing persecution following the Great Drakkaren Dragon War. All was peaceful for over 300 years, but in the year 6320, dragons re-emerged in Drakkaren from a city called Jiren. They numbered many and were led by Ceraxiles, an ancient blue dragon. His force of dragons and their acolytes later became known as the Cult of Ceraxiles. The Order of the Dragon Slayer lacked the power and numbers of centuries past. There were only 4 members at the time: Tordum Pendinos, a human cleric, Olafira Edgewood, an elf ranger, Quailer, a Kenku rogue, and Yorkson Vamper, a black dragonborn fighter. They fought as best they could against the resurgent threat from Jiren, seeking out and slaying dragons where they found them. This went on for the next 20 years, and by the year 6340, many new dragon slayers had been recruited since the dragons returned, but most were unprepared for an all-out war with the powerful creatures and perished in battle. The dragon slayers settled in the northern mountains of Drakkaren, secretly establishing a settlement there. A small number of standouts emerged amongst newer recruits. These were an elf ranger, Talbin, an impressive human mage, Riker, a Goliath fighter, Crixus, and I. Riker became disenchanted with fighting the dragons and often talked of the hopelessness of our situation. We all thought this was just talk, but unbeknownst to us, Riker had given up on humanity and betrayed the order of the Dragon Slayer. He sent word to our enemies of our location in the northern mountains and joined the cult of Seraxiles. A short time later, the dragons attacked the secret Dragon Slayer settlement we established as our home. Yorkson Vamper was killed while attempting to guard the retreat of those at the inn. Tordam Pendinos and I held off the attack until Olafira Edgewood and Quailer, who were on their way back from a mission, arrived to join the battle. I collapsed from the fighting, falling dead, but Tordam quickly revived me with holy magic. We fought well for a time, but then Seraxiles entered the fray, making the fight much more difficult for the Dragon Slayers. Quailer, Olafira, Tordam, and Talbin died in battle against the fearsome might of the ancient Blue Dragon. Arania Edgewood, a young elven girl and daughter of Olafira and Talbin, witnessed the deaths of her friends, allies, and parents. Glorung and 2 other metallic dragons arrived and rescued young Arania and I, who was still badly hurt from being killed a short time earlier, from the carnage at the settlement, bringing them to safety. As Arania flew away on Glorung's back, she turned and notched an arrow, drawing back fiercely on her bowstring. Arania proved her prowess in combat, destroying one of Seraxiles' eyes with a well-placed arrow. Giving him something to remember her by. Arania and I escaped, but we were the only 2 that survived. A dragon slayer and an elven girl, basically only a child. I took her under my wing and prepared her for the battles to come. Crixus was away during the dragon attack. When he returned to the settlement and found it destroyed, the Goliath retired from fighting dragons and returned to Platia, his home city. Crixus settled down and started a family. On this continent, in the year 6351, the young human paladin in training, Dambar Endara, trained with his father, Zambini, in the Birdhaven training grounds. A couple years later, in 6353, Dambar Endara left Birdhaven, setting off to become an adventurer. Mila Endara, Dambar's younger sister, was taken from Birdhaven 3 weeks later by her mother, Lady Gems, where she started a new life in Munronia. The Endara siblings were reunited a decade later, in the year 6363, but this reunion ended in tragedy. Mila Endara was possessed by Che Drden, a demon. She sought out and killed her brother, Dambar Endara, with her dagger, Night Feather. She had an evil smile on her face during the act. Pisto, a cleric and friend of Dambar, revived him after killing Mila. Back in Drakharum, 14 years later, in the year 6367, Gorsel, a red dragonborn, defeated Dambar Endara in a Theshan tournament. They bonded over the match. A short time later, they both joined the Silver Swords, a mercenary company. Gorsel and Dambar were brothers in arms and saw much success in the Silver Swords. And in the year 6372, Dambar Endara was promoted to commander of the 3rd Legion of the Silver Swords Mercenary Company. This legion grew to be called the Demon's Bane. Gorsel began to feel resentment towards his longtime friend and human ally, Dambyre. The human paladin was the weaker of the two warriors. Dambyre was promoted due to his surname and noble birth, as well as because the men under his command felt more comfortable with a human leading them. The following year, year 6373, two dragonborn brothers in a large clan of blue dragonmen bonded and became very close. Fume Atama and Rato Atama, two ninjas from Kasumi village, became best friends and trained together over the following 7 years. After some time apart, in the year 6381, Rato Atama returned to Kasumi village after his mission in Dova was completed. Atama clan ninjas, Akaru Atama, Kisaku Atama, and Ozumash Atama were killed during the mission. Fume Atama, who was deemed too young and inexperienced for the mission in Dova, challenged Rato for the legendary wazashi of his clan, the Daburo Doriganjo, which Rato now held, as well as the position as chieftain of the Atama clan. Fume won the battle, claimed the two legendary wazashi blades, and was named chieftain. Rato and Fume became estranged, and their friendship ended with great enmity. Year 6382 was an important year in our history. Events in the kingdom between King Vicarion and the Dracaran nobles, as well as the cult of Seraxiles and the leadership in Jiren, led to the Battle of Platia. A united fighting force comprised of King Vicarion's Royal Dracaran army, Lord Amanziri's Westphalian army, the Platian army and militia, and the 3rd Legion of the Silver Swords, the Demon's Bane, faced off against an army of fighting men from Jiren, allied with the cultists. The Jileians had been turned against the crown and served the cult of Seraxiles. The Jileians had a small army compared to King Vicarion's coalition force, but the Jileians had dragons and they numbered many. Jiren and the cult of Seraxiles were technically victorious, but the battle had a great cost for all, and Jiren did not acquire any additional territory after the fighting. The Jileian army, Silver Swords, Platian army and militia, and Westphalian army were all decimated. Lord Amanziri, who was the king's hand at the time, was badly wounded. King Vicarion was captured and executed. Dambyre Indara, who led the Demon's Bane, and Gorsel, his Demon's Bane ally, were badly wounded as well. Dambyre was washed ashore near Jiren after being tossed into the ocean by Seraxiles. He suffered from amnesia and later fell in love with Haridi, a shape-shifting Kenku that brought him back to health. King Vicarion's son, Leonidas, became successor to the throne of Dracaran and was crowned as the new king a week after the battle. Still in the year 6382, after the Silver Sword's 3rd Legion, the Demon's Bane, was defeated at the Battle of Platia, Gorsel, second in command, deserted the company. Most of the men died, but those that lived had no one to follow. The group disbanded. Prior to the battle, Gorsel had a plan to delay the dragons from supporting the land army of Jiren. He believed by separating the two forces and engaging them one by one, victory would be assured. Unfortunately, those arrogant softskins, those foolish humans and their knights, lords, and kings, ignored the fierce dragonborn warriors' stratagem. King Vicarion and Lord Amanziri thought it was beneath them not to face the full force of their enemy on the field of battle. His friend Dambyre agreed with King Vicarion and Lord Amanziri. The humans doomed the 3rd Legion to be defeated and destroyed by Seraxiles. Gorsel was full of anguish and frustration after the defeat, and could not bear to work with humans any longer. As he drifted through Dracaran, by chance he met a lizard folk. The lizardman, Warren Bailey, also shared in Gorsel's disdain for humanity and the Dracaran royalty and the lords and knights of the kingdom. Warren explained he served a group called the Blood Raven Guild and was searching for the leader of the guild, Terek. Gorsel agreed to join Warren in his quest. As they traveled Drakharan together, they spoke candidly of their wishes to eradicate humans and cleanse the land of their arrogant scheming and constant wars. Time passed, and Gorsel became completely and utterly manipulated by the clever lizard folk. He became Warren's ward and bodyguard. When they interacted with others, Gorsel posed as the leader and Warren as the ward. The purpose of this was to deflect from the true composition of the two traveling companions and ensure they always had the advantage. By the year 6390, Arania Edgewood was fully trained and a dragon slayer in her own right. Arania and I were tasked by the Silver Dragon, Gloron, with finding warriors worthy of joining the Order of the Dragon Slayer. Both of us continued to train our bodies to the absolute limit in order to protect and nurture new recruits. Meanwhile, the cult of Seraxiles sought out to destroy the dragon slayers that remained. That same year, 6390, Terek, current signer of the contract of blood and leader of the Blood Raven Guild, met Kira, a young Kenku. Terek took Kira under his wing. 4 years later, in 6394, Dambyre and Dara visited Axe Henge to check on his son, Kavari Endura Emanziri, who was a student there. They dueled, and Kavari was defeated. However, he did manage to strike his father in the battle. Dambyre was impressed with his son's progress. 2 years after that, in 6396, Gannicus, a Goliath, who grew up in Platia and was raised by Crixus, a retired member of the Dragon Slayers, went out hunting food for his family. During the hunt, near mountains to the northeast of Platia, he encountered the white dragonborn mage, Rylaburag, the Dragon Lord. Rylaburag delighted in playing tricks and fooled Gannicus into an agreement, which led to the Goliath being transported to Purgatory. In Purgatory, Gannicus lived as a slave and fought in a gladiator arena for the amusement of Kalorn, an ancient hellfire dragon. 1 year into Gannicus' life in Purgatory, in 6397, Gannicus was forced by the master of the gladiator arena, the ancient hellfire dragon, Kalorn, into battling his only friend since traveling to Purgatory, Soren. After prevailing in combat against Soren, his best friend and training partner, Gannicus was forced by Kalorn to kill him. Gannicus swore to get revenge one day, and not only on Kalorn, but on all of dragonkind. Year 6398, eager to possess an Endara once again, the demon, Chadriden, entered the body of Kavari Endara Manziri. Chadriden was in the service of Grast, a demon lord from the Abyss, who had for many generations enjoyed tempting and tormenting the strong-willed Endara bloodline. The possessed Kavari destroyed the training academy in Axe Henge, killing all students and instructors there. The possession was temporary, but Chadriden would gain greater and more frequent control over Kavari as he grew older. Still, in 6398, Kasumi village was attacked by the cult of Seraxiles. Riker, Armin, Rato Atama, and a few other cultists led the attack. The village was burned, and most of the populace was massacred. Rato kidnapped Oni Atama, his nephew and Fume's son. Master Buki and the Doom Ninja, Anmei, tried to pursue the cult, but they were overpowered and forced to retreat. When the chieftain of the Atama clan, Fume, returned to Kasumi, he found his eldest son missing, his other 4 sons dead, and Marsala, Atama, his wife, murdered. The legendary twin Wazashi of his clan, the Daburo Doriganjo, were missing. He came to blame the dragons for the attacks, and later the cult of Seraxiles specifically, Fume hid his identity as a dragonborn ninja from Kasumi and took on a new identity, the Face. Later in 6400, during his travels, Beaster Maledictus happened upon Kavari and Dara Manziri while the demon, Jiren, had control over the young human. Beaster suppressed the possession and offered to aid Kavari in exorcising the demon. Kavari would call Beaster, Master, as a sign of respect and gratitude. Year 6400. On his deathbed, Terak, leader of the Blood Raven Guild, bestowed Kira with the contract of blood and appointed him as the new leader. Only 4 names remained on the contract. Kira sought out one of the names, Rilbarag, the Dragon Lord. Kira found the man at a camp near Platia, but waited for a perfect opportunity to strike. Kira slit the mage's throat while he slept, ending the spell that trapped Gannicus in purgatory. The Goliath was instantly, unexpectedly freed. Gannicus was grateful to Kira, and the two became close allies and friends. Still in year 6400, towards the end of the year, Arania Edgewood and I parted ways, seeking new dragon slayers. In the 5 years that followed, Arania recruited and trained the Face, Fume Atama, Kira, Kavari and Dara Amanziri, Gannicus, and Beaster Maledictus. 6405 was the year the Order of the Dragon Slayer was defeated, and our world was lost. The Order of the Dragon Slayer, under the command of Arania Edgewood, embarked on a journey to save Dracorin from the cult of Seraxiles, and the campaign went well at first. The Dragon Slayers journeyed to Trost, on the report of dragon activity in the area. In caverns near Trost, they encountered Armin, a ranking member of the cult of Seraxiles, and the second name on Kira's list. After a brief battle against a group of the cult members, Kira killed Armin, fulfilling another name on his contract. Shortly after that, the Dragon Slayers rescued the blacksmiths Stanley and Sindri from the cult. The Dragon Slayers also saved Oni Atama, the Face, his son, who had been sold into slavery by his uncle, Rutto. They later rescued Beaster's sister, Shale Maledictus, as well. Shale had served the cult for many years, after being captured by the ancient red dragon, Salignus. Shale was angry at Beaster for leaving her behind when Salignus attacked Kristen, but she was happy to see her long-lost brother. Oni and Shale joined the Order. As time passed during the Order's adventure, Shale and Fume became close, and romance was kindled between the two. The Dragon Slayers received word their leader, Arania Edgewood, was injured in battle against the cult. They traveled to Thessia to see her and to speak with King Leonidas. The king dispatched the warriors to Platia, as he believed the cult had taken the town. Before leaving Thessia, the Dragon Slayers checked on Arania's condition. The adventurers found her at the tavern, recovering from her recent battle. Kavari and Arania had become close since he joined the Order of the Dragon Slayer. Seeing the elven girl wounded pushed Kavari into confessing his feelings for her. A courtship began between the two warriors. King Leonidas was correct. The cult of Seraxiles had attacked and taken control of Platia a short time earlier. While the cult occupied Platia, Riker and Narrowveen, both ranking cult members, learned of a powerful cleric, Tychus Donzil, serving at the Temple of Bahamut. They sought out and confronted Tychus. Tychus proved to be a coward, but Riker believed the portly man could be of use to the cult. He murdered Tychus' wife and took his daughter, Cottus Donzil, hostage. Riker explained he would keep in touch when he had come up with a way to make Tychus useful to the cult. He added if Tychus disobeyed, Cottus would be executed. Riker cursed the talisman of Bahamut that Tychus used as his spell focus, imbuing it with evil energies. While en route to Platia, the Order met a traveling paladin, Dambire Endura. Dambire attempted to rob the group, and Gannicus challenged him to single combat. Kaveri Endari Manziri realized the paladin was his father, interrupting the fight. A short time later, Jiren took control of Kaveri and tried to kill Dambire in his sleep. The attempt failed due to interference from Vister. Dambire joined the Order of the Dragon Slayer to save his son from the demon that killed his sister, Mela Endara, many years ago. The Dragon Slayers arrived in Platia and met Crixus, the father of Gannicus. Kira challenged him to single combat and was defeated with ease. The Dragon Slayers entered a hidden basement underneath Crixus' house and found a secret cavern complex used by the cult. While exploring the cavern, the group slayed Everest, an adult white dragon that brought terror to Platia. Fume found a magic bow there and named it Everest, after the dragon they just slayed. Deeper into the cavern, the adventurers defeated and killed Nerovine, a ranking member of the cult. Despite repeated victories against the cult, something happened in the cavern that gave the Dragon Slayers pause. An illusion of Riker proved to have great power when it killed Kaveri Endara Manziri with a deadly spell. Kaveri was later revived, but this struck fear into the hearts of the Order. The Dragon Slayers traveled to Kasumi Village. Master Buki was the only ninja present, and the village was still in disrepair from the cult's attack 7 years earlier. Master Buki informed the Order that only he and the Doom Ninja remained. Rato Atama had hunted down and killed all other ninjas that survived the cult's initial attack. Later, Kaveri learned from Mara Amanziri, his mother, that Westfall was besieged by dragons. The Dragon Slayers traveled there with the utmost haste. When they arrived, they saw dozens of dragons flying over the city. The group snuck into the city and through Castle Amanziri. They saved Lady Amanziri and gained 2 new allies, Red, an unusually powerful townsman, and Demix, a golden dragon that guarded the dungeons of the castle. They fought their way to the throne room, where they battled Wraith, a powerful dragonborn mage and member of the cult. During the fight, it appeared the Dragon Slayers were victorious when Kira tricked Wraith and dealt a critical blow. But then Wraith transformed into an ancient green dragon. He revealed his name was actually Venomclaw. He hated the name Wraith. Venomclaw revealed the cult of Seraxiles sought after special stones that were required to bring Tiamat to the material plane. And this was the cult's aim all along. During the battle, Venomclaw appeared to have killed Fume, Oni, and Kira. The rest of the Order retreated, bringing the corpses of Fume and Kira with them. Oni was left behind. The group traveled to the Platinum Dragon, a temple of Bahamut in Westfall. Bahamut answered the Dragon Slayer's cries for help. He created a force field around the temple, preventing hostile dragons from getting through. Bahamut then resurrected Face and told him he must save Oni. Bahamut stated Oni Atama was the key to defeating Tiamat and his followers. Next, Bahamut offered to resurrect Kira. Kira declined, due to Bahamut's stipulation that Kira must swear himself to the dragon god. Next, the group traveled to the Temple of Ogma in Westfall. They spoke with Ogma himself, who resurrected Kira and forced him to serve the god of knowledge. Ogma broke the contract of blood that Kira was beholden to. Ogma advised the group of an open demon portal at Axe Henge. Ogma offered to exorcise Che Druden from Kavari if the Order closed the portal and saved the material plane. Metallic dragons met with the Order and offered their aid. The metallic dragons engaged with the chromatic dragons flying over Westfall, giving the Order of the Dragon Slayer an opportunity to re-engage Venomclaw. The Dragon Slayers returned to the throne room to face Venomclaw. They slayed him after a difficult battle, but Oni Atama was missing. They learned from Bahamut that Oni was somehow still alive. One of the metallic dragons that aided the Dragon Slayers was injured in the battle. Vister, Fume, and Kavari traveled to Thesha to obtain the necessary components to heal him. Meanwhile, Dambire Indara made the decision to take the other half of the Dragon Slayers and travel to Axe Henge. He intended to save his son's soul at all costs. Riker contacted Tychus Donzil and ordered him to travel to Westfall. He was given a mission. Tychus was to heal the townsfolk injured in the dragon attack and make himself useful to the Lady of Castle Amanziri. When the Dragon Slayers returned to Westfall after their next adventure, he was to join them. Riker advised Tychus he could use his corrupted talisman to create cursed goodberries, and he was to make certain each Dragon Slayer ate the evil fruit. Also, Riker was going to request constant updates on the Dragon Slayer's movements. Fearful for his daughter's life, Tychus complied. Dambire, Gannicus, and Kira hitched a ride on a pirate ship, traveling towards Axe Henge. On the way there, they met Books, a mage on the pirate crew. Books died in battle during the journey, revealing he was actually Ogma in human form, planning to assist them in closing the portal. After reaching Axe Henge, the group met Ceres, a knight from the Temple of Tyr. Davos, the head of her temple, dispatched her to investigate demon activity at Axe Henge. Ceres and the Order encountered a highly intelligent Balor guarding the demon portal. The Balor tricked Gannicus into leaping inside the portal, landing him in the abyss. Kira could not allow his friend to travel there alone. He jumped in after Gannicus. Dambire, Indara, and Ceres killed the Balor. But the demon portal did not close. Dambire learned closing the portal required a sacrifice. He threw Mother's Love, his throwing axe into the portal, hoping it made its way to Gannicus, who would need all the help he could get in the abyss. Then he drew Longfeather, the ancestral Indara longsword. He gave Longfeather to Ceres and tasked her with bringing it to Kavari, his son. Dambire approached the portal and said a prayer. His body disintegrated into nothingness. And the demon portal closed. When Gannicus and Kira arrived in the abyss, they were surrounded by hundreds of faceless demons. The demons asked who they were and what they were doing there. Kira, ever the clever trickster, convincingly stated he was an agent of Grast and was bringing Gannicus to him as a mission. Unfortunately for Kira, Baal, god of murder, was disguised as one of the demons. Baal knew Kira would arrive in the abyss. Right at this moment, Baal revealed himself to Kira and captured him. When Kira was revived and his soul was sworn to Ogma, he was no longer beholden to the contract of blood. Although it was beyond his control, Kira broke his contract with Baal and was no longer his servant. A reckoning had come for the young Kenku. 4 years before the beginning of recorded history, Baal, god of murder, walked the material plane of Cortania for several months. During his time on this plane, Baal impregnated 6 mortal women. The 6 children these women bore became known as the Baal spawn. Each child grew to possess different degrees of power passed down from their father. In year 13, Alatos Theobald, a human girl of only 17, became the most infamous assassin to have lived. As her infamy and body count increased, she grew to be called Raven Scar. Alatos formed the Blood Raven Guild, a simple assassin guild that she led. Unbeknownst to her at this time, Alatos was a demigod, one of the Baal spawn. The god of murder, Baal, was her father. A short time later, in year 17, Baal returned to Cortania to check on the lives of his children. While there, he met the Blades of Fate. The Blades of Fate were led by a small council, each with the ability to see into the future. The group used this foresight to take action where they could to prevent disasters from befalling their plane. While speaking with Zephala Mirrorshard, the group's leader, Baal learned much about the fate of this plane, which was destined to be unmade by a greater god, thousands of years in the future. He misliked much of what he learned, and together, with the Blades of Fate guiding him, Baal created the Contract of Destiny. The contract was designed to adjust the history of Cortania to benefit Baal, as well to prevent the plane's destruction. Baal, to reward the Blades of Fate for assisting him with the Contract of Destiny, bestowed some of his power on Zephala, granting her a limited ability to travel through time and space. In year 22, Baal met his daughter, Alatos, and presented her with the Contract of Blood, a list containing the names of people that must be killed in order to fulfill the Contract of Destiny. Baal instructed his daughter to continue leading the Blood Raven Guild, but to no longer have the guild fulfill contracts for money. From now on, the targets for the Blood Raven Guild would be the names on the Contract of Blood. The Contract of Blood had been drafted by Baal and the Blades of Fate. The list of names in the Contract of Blood consisted of targets from the entire plane of Cortania and spanned thousands of years. After signing the Contract of Blood, only a single Blood Raven, referred to as the current and most recent signer, could properly read the names on the magic contract and update the contract by killing those the names belonged to. If all on the list were eliminated, an opportunity to save Cortania from being unmade would be presented, and the demigod Alatos Theobald would be returned to the world, thousands of years after her predetermined, unavoidable demise. To fulfill the Contract of Destiny in year 40, Alatos Theobald founded Lost Treasures Orphanage, a respite for young children without parents or family to keep them fed and cared for. The orphanage served a second purpose as well. The nuns and proctors working there trained the orphans to become new generations of assassins for the Blood Raven Guild. Baal dragged Kira to Penjura Segreda, the demon prison in that layer of the abyss, and brought him to a torture chamber. Baal was enraged that Kira was no longer beholden to the Contract of Blood. Baal tortured and killed Kira, then revived him and did it again, and again. Gannicus was brought to Grezd. Grezd used powerful magic to take control of Gannicus' will. Gannicus now served the Demon Lord as his thrall. Meanwhile, Vister, Kavari, Face, Shale, and Demix traveled to Teisling. While investigating the town, Fume came to believe Rato had visited with Oni in tow. The group found a portal to Purgatory and entered it. They fought their way through demons After making an agreement with the devils there for free passage, they found and killed an embodiment of the Demon Lord Grast. The creature killed Vister, but he was revived shortly after. The group, which began calling themselves the Saviors, found what they were looking for. They came upon a gladiator arena deep in purgatory. Oni was fighting there as a gladiator. Tiamat was there, speaking with Kalorn, the ancient hellfire dragon that once enslaved Gannicus. Rato Atama was there as well, as was Marsala Atama, the wife Fume thought was killed 7 years prior. Tiamat left the arena before noticing the Saviors. Fume challenged Rato to single combat and killed him, reclaiming the ancestral Wazashi, the Daburo Doriganjo, that Rato stole when he attacked Kasumi. Kavari befriended Kalorn, learning he did not intend to help Seraxiles or the cult, and disdained Tiamat. Oni and Marsala were saved, and the group left purgatory. The face entered into a state of depression. The burden of killing his brother weighed heavily on Fume. Also, during the adventure, he developed romantic feelings towards Shale, which she seemed to reciprocate. But Marsala being alive made his situation complicated. Face did not know how to handle this, and both women spurned him. Vister became angry with Fume for hurting his sister's feelings. Back in Teisling, Fume revealed Marsala was his sister and was ostracized by the villagers. The group revisited the Temple of Ogma. Ogma rewarded Dambire's sacrifice by expelling Che Drden from Kavari's body and destroying her. Fume used all his gold and even borrowed a bit from Kavari to have a special blade forged. Dokufu, the Poison Lady. He was very pleased with his new weapon, but recent events weighed heavily on his mind. Fume didn't have a single gold piece to his name and could not afford a room at the inn. His Dragon Slayer allies were all annoyed with him for various reasons, so he could not borrow either. The Dragonborn ninja went to sleep, drunk, in the gutters of Teisling. Tiefling villagers of Teisling came upon him, disgusted after learning of his incestuous ways. They kicked and spit on him for hours, until Kavari rescued him. Kavari brought Fume over to a barn and laid the depressed Dragonborn ninja in hay. Fume tossed and turned, overcome with guilt and shame. The horses in the barn neighed, and all Fume could think of was how the animals sounded like his brother, Rato. Fume was a kinslayer. He disgraced himself. Fume Atama fulfilled his promise to Bahamut by saving Oni Atama. Tiamat would be stopped by his son. Fume committed seppuku, harikari. He fell on Dokufu, his new katana, and ended his life. The next morning, the Saviors found Fume's body and cremated him. Kavari looted his corpse, while Unmei, the Doom Ninja, watched on from the shadows. Oni obtained the Daburo Doriganjo, and he was now the chieftain of the Atama clan. Oni decided his clan was no more, and he would move to Westfall to serve House Emanziri. Marsala agreed to go with him. News of Dambire and Dara's death spread through Drakharan quickly. Gorsel, Dambire's former Silver Sword's ally, learned of Dambire's sacrifice and became enraged like never before. Not only did Dambire steal victory over Seraxiles from the Dragonborn, but to die in such a glorious and heroic fashion. Gorsel's rage boiled over. Another piece of knowledge came to the traveling duo of Gorsel and Warren Bailey. They learned Kira, the current leader of the Blood Raven Guild, had been traveling with Dambuyer. Warren and Gorsel set out to find him immediately, eager to get on with Blood Raven business so they could complete their true objective of destroying all of humanity. The Saviors accompanied Oni and Marsala to Westfall. They met Ceres, and Kavari learned of his father's demise. Ceres gave Kavari Longfeather. The Dragon Slayers met Tychus Donzel, a cleric that had been healing the sick and wounded of Westfall since the cult's attack. He and Mara Amanziri had become close friends. Tychus informed the Dragon Slayers of a red dragon that had been attacking supply caravans nearby. His name was Maladoxus. Tychus accompanied the Order of the Dragon Slayer, and they destroyed Maladoxus together. After the battle, Tychus and Ceres joined the Order. Dambuyer and Dara's old friend and red dragon-born ally, Gorsel, arrived at Westville with his evil lizardman ward, Warren Bailey. The pair sought out the Dragon Slayers and found them at the inn. Gorsel and Warren stated they were sent by Bahamut to aid the Dragon Slayers in stopping Tiamat. Gorsel and Warren were hostile and abrasive at first. Their tempers flared and they attacked the Dragon Slayers, but the pair was soundly defeated. Gorsel and Warren Bailey joined the Order in their quest to save Drakarin. The Doom Ninja, Anmei, revealed himself and joined the Dragon Slayers as well. Doom Ninja confided in Kavari, Vister, Ceres, Warren, and Gorsel that he had managed to infiltrate the cult for a time. While infiltrating the cult, he learned Riker had sent a mole to infiltrate the Order of the Dragon Slayer. Doom Ninja believed the mole to be Tychus. Before the cleric was confronted by the Dragon Slayers, Tychus had beseeched Bahamut and learned Riker was going to betray him and kill his daughter, Codis, regardless of what he did. Tychus decided to help the Dragon Slayers defeat the cult. Immediately after speaking to Bahamut, with new resolve, the Dragon Slayers surrounded and interrogated Tychus. Tychus admitted all he had done and explained his deal with Riker. Kavari and Vister had already consumed cursed goodberries and were warned about the curse by Tychus. The group took away Tychus' focus and locked him in the Westville dungeons. They treated him poorly and threatened to execute him. The group then scrambled to learn more about the berries and to find a cure. Ceres learned she was able to remove the curse with her magic. She cured Kavari and Vister of Riker's curse. Doom Ninja visited Tychus in the dungeon and offered to save his daughter if Tychus took his own life. Tychus declined, knowing Riker would have no more use for his daughter and kill her if he perished. Warren learned Kira was lost in the abyss while traveling with the Order of the Dragon Slayer. He and Gorsel had come to a dead end in their quest to find the leader of the Blood Raven Guild. They could now begin the goal they had desired to complete for many years. Gorsel and Warren had watched the hero, Kavari Indara Manziri, quickly and easily turn on Tychus. Tychus was in a very weak position with no allies or friends, and Warren realized he could use this to his advantage. Gorsel and Warren descended into the dungeons to speak with Tychus. They revealed that it was Gorsel that was the ward, and Warren had his own plan to save Drakarin. They befriended Tychus and gained him as an ally. The true objective of Warren and Gorsel was not revealed to Tychus, however. What they truly planned was to obtain the stones and bring Tiamat to Drakarin themselves. They planned to obliterate all humans from the world, and that plan was now underway. Later, Gorsel convinced the others to release Tychus from his jail cell and promised to keep an eye on him moving forward. The Dragon Slayers traveled to the lair of Salignus to confront the ancient Red Dragon. The adventurers braved deadly traps, battled orcs, and navigated the lair. As the group traversed the deadly area, the party disagreed on which path to take. Gorsel, Warren Bailey, and Tychus Donzil split from Kavari and Dara, Manziri, Vister Maledictus, Shale, Ceres, and the Doom Ninja. A short time later, Kavaris' group encountered Salignus. Salignus noticed them immediately, and Unmay, the Doom Ninja, stepped forward to stall Salignus, while the others fled to retrieve the rest of the party. Unmay did the best he could, but Salignus engulfed him in dragonflame, killing the ninja, and the ancient red dragon immediately pursued the adventurers, preventing them from reaching their allies. Using every bit of might they could muster, Kavari, Ceres, Shale, and Vister endured a grueling battle against Salignus. After both sides had exhausted nearly all their strength, Vister channeled the last bit of his power and unleashed a flurry of magic at the ancient beast before him. The burst of magical energy was enough to overcome the great creature, killing it once and for all. As the last light dimmed in Salignus' eyes, Vister could feel his own strength give out. The draconic magic that had empowered him for so many years was gone. Meanwhile, Warren Bailey and Gorsel never truly searched for Salignus, but rather they were biding their time, hoping Kavari and the others would find the red dragon they sought. Warren turned to Tychus, who was no longer trusted by the rest of the group, and told the human he owed he and Gorsel a great debt for his freedom. The lizardman told Tychus he expected the debt paid in blood. Warren explained the three would wait until they heard the other dragon slayers battling Salignus, then move in to strike them down if they somehow prevailed. The soft-skinned fool refused and attempted to flee to warn the others of the betrayal. Warren gave Gorsel the order, who then struck the human cleric down from behind. Gorsel and Warren Bailey happened upon the exhausted, wounded remnants of the Dragon Slayers, moments after their battle with Salignus. Kavari and Ceres stood, panting and completely exhausted, while Shale lied on the ground, tending to a wounded left leg. Vister stood near the deceased dragon, looking lost. Gorsel and Warren approached the Dragon Slayers, and Gorsel applauded them for their great victory. Warren bent down and gripped Shale's hand to assist the mage to her feet. As she rose, he pulled her in close and stabbed straight through her heart with a twisted, cursed dagger, killing her. The mouths of each dragon slayer dropped in shock and horror. Each warrior that remained stood frozen in fear and surprise. Warren let out a dark, evil laugh, lifted his hands into the air, and spun 180 degrees to face his former allies. He revealed to the Dragon Slayers that Gorsel was the ward all along, and Warren the mastermind and leader of the duo. Warren then explained the project he had been working on for many years, the Zero Human Plan. He and Gorsel planned to eliminate all pinkskins in the world and bring their knights, lords, and castles to oblivion. Gorsel nodded in agreement and cited as his motivation the battle against the cult of Ceraxiles, when his friend, Dambire, and the other humans refused to heed his advice. leading to Thesha's defeat and the current crisis in Dracarin. The resurrection of the dragon deity from the Nine Hells, Tiamat, was the perfect solution to the human problem, explained Warren Bailey. Warren and Gorsel attacked the wounded, exhausted Kavari Indara, Imanziri, and the knight, Ceres. Ceres and Kavari fought valiantly, but both were too exhausted to fight with their full strength. The two mighty warriors fell to the Dragonborn and Lizard folk, who had betrayed them. Next, Warren ordered Gorsel to kill the powerless Vister Maledictus, which he did with delight, bashing the former sorcerer's head on the stone floor over and over until his brains leaked out of his ears. Warren Bailey and Gorsel traveled to Jiren and fell on their knees before Ceraxiles, after presenting him with the heads of Kavari, Vister, Ceres, Tychus, Shale, and the Doom Ninja. Ceraxiles was pleased and accepted Warren and Gorsel into the cult, bestowing the title of Priest of Tiamat onto both of them. With both warriors now serving as members of the cult of Ceraxiles, they were given a mission to carry out. Riker joined the duo in their new mission. Riker, Warren, and Gorsel traveled to Westfall to tie up loose ends. The three cultists and their army of orcs and smaller dragons besieged the castle. Dimex, the gold dragon, joined the garrison at Castle Imanziri to defend the people of Westfall, but only managed to buy a little time before being captured and executed by Gorsel. Dimex's sacrifice stalled the enemy long enough, so Oni Atama, Mara Imanziri, and Marsala Atama were able to escape beneath the castle, avoiding the wrath of Ceraxiles. Weeks later, Riker finished assembling the 6 stones required to bring Tiamat to Cortania. He presented the stones to Ceraxiles, who used his powerful magic to imp all 6 stones into a golden glove of great power, the power of infinity. Ceraxiles used this infinity gauntlet to summon Tiamat from Avernus and into Cortania. It did not take long for Tiamat to conquer the world. Tiamat called out to the dragons of the material plane, young and old, small and big, and beckoned them to join her. The great nations, kingdoms, armies, and heroes of the world could not stand against her might and the might of Cortania's dragons, all fighting for one unified purpose: the annihilation of all mortals and the seizure of all treasure in the material plane. A few brave souls continue to fight against Tiamat, but more ground is lost to the dragons on each passing day. I've brought only 7 recruits from Dracarin. One of them joined me when Arania first formed her team last year. He is the older brother of Vister and Shale, Jobin Maledictus.
Jiren turned to a man on his left, who had been playing a violin for this entire story. The man was human and appeared very solemn. He had a large, puffy blue afro on his head, similar to Frankie from One Piece.
Another joined after she heard of Dambire Indara's demise, and was once very close to him. Her name is Haridi.
Jiren motioned to a female Kenku, wearing red robes, who had been sitting a ways away from the group. She too looked solemn.
Of the refugees who survived the attack on Westfall that brought down the city, Mara Imanziri sent me Red, an unusually powerful townsman, and Oni Atama, Fume's son and a former slave of the cult.
Jiren motioned to a plain-looking human wearing a red flannel shirt and overalls, as well as a young, winged blue dragonborn dressed like a ninja, wearing blue and orange clothing.
Platia was annihilated by the dragons and by Tiamat herself. One man escaped the carnage, a Goliath and retired former dragon slayer. Gannica's father, Crixus.
Jiren motioned towards a brooding Goliath, sitting Indian style near the fire.
A clever girl worried about her dad escaped the jail in Jiren, where she was being held as a hostage. She later learned her father had been betrayed and killed by his allies in the name of the cult. Goddess Donzil has devoted her life to avenging her murdered mother and father by joining us against the dragons. The girl has quite the affinity for magic, and Bahamut himself has been working with her, so she can be of use to us.
Jiren pointed over to a portly female human with red hair and red robes.
Lastly, when Tiamat destroyed the Temple of Tyr in Thessia, the apprentice paladins and people who came to the temple to pray that day mostly perished. Some survived and escaped. One of the survivors was the head of the temple and the paladin who trained the late dragon slayer, Ceres. This man, Davos, decided to take a stand against the dragons. He has joined us as well.
Jiren motioned to a human man who appeared to be in his late 50s. He was small and skinny in stature, with a mostly bald head except for medium-length white hair flowing from the back of his scalp. He wore weathered, dull plate mail and had a morning star as well as a shockingly large cross-shaped boomerang strapped to his sword belt.
Arania learned Ceraxiles was sent by Tiamat to these lands, to Dava, to conquer and hold the kingdom. She immediately set out to hunt him before I had gathered my dragon slayers together. Since arriving in Clad, I encountered 2 additional warriors of Dava who have joined the Order of the Dragon Slayer. Sir Ian Miko, known as the greatest knight the kingdom has ever seen, and Edrin Elrin, who comes from a lineage of heroes and has special abilities well suited to fighting dragons.
Jiren motioned to the Ian M. and Edrin of this time. They both looked similar to the 2 men you knew, but appeared a quarter-century older. Both donned impressive suits of glowing full plate mail.
Only one metallic dragon still lives, as Tiamat and her minions hunted down and killed all the others. He is Gloron, a silver dragon who will assist us in returning to Drakarn to face Tiamat, if we succeed here. New friends from the past, let us join forces and save this world together.